jumping on a post here. All right, let's get something in here. Let's see. Set up a couple things. Okay. Get set up here. Listen, thank you guys for joining. People told me for the past couple of years, as I've counseled them, I'm in these conversations with people, whether it's business, ministerial matters. I just have this sense of navigation and a sense of discernment. And after spending, usually it's about 45 hours, they say to me, I'd pay for this. I talked loosely about mentorships or coaching or advice over the last several years. I've helped different businesses. I've helped ministry pastors. In fact, I've had tell me after counseling him, he says, you're a true pastor. And it's just simply my mantle. People have enjoyed some of the counsel. So because I didn't have a forum for people to actually join and jump in and go connect with me, they weren't able to continue that. And some people are still in my life, some people aren't, but it's just that place where, when it's time, things like that, it's time to make it available. So this is me making it. Also, I want to send out to many of you who have been following my teachings and my own journey and revelations in God for the last 10 years. And this is me. I'm giving you direct access to me. It's going to be a limited amount that are available. And I'm actually a small beta test through the end of February for those that want to join immediately. But I'd like to get into it. Tonight is about recognize your season and my clarity actually matters. Conversations that I've had with people, what was missing is their clarity. Oftentimes we need someone to reflect with. Throughout my life, my personal I've actually had several different mentors in my life that God actually put in place. Some I paid for, just had a man, and often that he placed in my life, and they were sounding boards for me. It really helped my growth. My first point that I'd like to you need to first recognize where you're in. So are you in a season of transition? Are you do you feel stuck but don't know why? I know these questions come up a lot of times. They may not be framed in the same way. You could find yourself in a place where you know that God, or you feel determined in your heart to go do something, whether it's losing weight, being a business model, or it's doing something in ministry or a family issue. There's something that causes you to be stuck. I talked about mandates, and that's one of my teachings. But today, I just want to ask you, are you in a transition? Are you facing a decision, and do you feel stuck? Most people don't lack desire. They lack clarity. I know for a fact there was a lady, one of the testimonies I have in my life is I released a book last year, and somebody found me through Facebook and some of the post promotions on in Michigan. It was a nurse, and she reached out to me actually late at night and happened to be up, and I took a call with her. And again, it wasn't planned or organized, but I just felt like the Father, engaged this person. He called me. We got on about a 45-minute to an hour phone call, and after that phone call, a lot of the things that were in the book, clarity on. She just needs someone to tell her that she was capable, that she was able to believe what Scripture said about her life and not believe the linger. And that she, Christ, who was greater in her, is greater than the enemy that was attacking her at the time. So we were able to do, one, she needed just to be encouraged. Understand the stumbling blocks. Sometimes it's spiritual, sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's physical, just your head. And we just need someone, encourage us past that point. And after that call, I didn't hear from her again, but as far as a long, hour-long phone call or anything like that, but I have kept touch with her the months, and she's doing a lot better. And messages. It's been an encouragement to me, and she mentioned that just that one session with me actually helped her get over some, just simply because the blessing of that connection that the God, in my opinion. A second point that I'd like to make is that clarity often comes through conversation. Sometimes you can't see your own blind spots. Conversations reveal things you can't see alone. And we need that sounding board. We need that someone else from outside of our world can. When things that I do is I will this psychological thing with myself. I set myself outside myself, right? What would I say to myself? What would I tell someone in my exact situation? And I counsel myself a little bit, but not everybody can do that. And so sometimes we just need someone to lean and reflect back to us what we just said, because we sometimes will re-say to ourselves where they become blind. We almost immune to the things that we're saying to ourselves. And sometimes we need that revelation from somebody else, or just a reflection, or somebody to reframe or re-say the very things that we're saying to ourselves, or the way we may feel, or the condition that we're currently in. And that's priceless. Sometimes that's the Holy Spirit. Sometimes God uses, and we just have to recognize those to others. I know for me, I was dealing with a capital market, an RV park owner, and he had an incredible project that I was very excited about. And he had negotiated some things that really didn't give him the leverage that he should have. And you could tell he did experience that some people have on negotiation. And not to belabor it, but he was in a cellar, was kind of manipulating him, pressing him on some issues. I simply ran through several series of thoughts and just simply that he could apply. And I told him this. I said, you have the leverage. And in that moment, he stopped me. He said, motivational speaker, and he was all pumped up and ready to go, after a half-hour conversation, this project, and kind of encouraging him, look, take the bull by the horns. You've got this. You're in. And if you paid me, this is some of the stuff. But I didn't give him all the details. I just gave him enough to give him that nudge. And hopefully, somebody out there needs that today. The important thing is that clarity shortens the distance between where you are and where you're supposed to be. Clarity, how can you get there? If you don't understand the goal or destination of where you're going, one of the things I've always believed in is if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And oftentimes we can't plan because we don't have the clarity that we need. And that's when we need someone to reflect on, or a mentor, even from God to give you that, get you past where you're at right now. Again, the third point that I'd like to make, alignment costs time. Misalignment is expensive. It costs time, it costs energy, it costs your peace, it costs progress. Misalignment is and I talk about, and this goes on into framing your life, framing your business, framing your ministry. What is it that God, what is the purpose of your life? What is your destiny? And if you don't align, or you don't understand your current mandate for today, this week, or this year, you don't have a blueprint that lays out what that looks like, it can be very challenging. And oftentimes we spend our energy, we spend our peace, we spend progress, we spend our time investing in things that aren't getting us where God ultimately called us to be. An example of this, I had someone that read my book and they finally understood the next step that they needed to take. And it was just that simple clarity of something being spelled out in a very, you know, sometimes it's just reframe a positioning that someone has in life. And they were like, you know what, I see perfect sense. I know that over the years, over the last 10 years of me having on, God actually encouraging me to get on YouTube and post some things and do some live teachings and trainings that people have told me multiple times that they go, listen, I've heard this before, but when you said it, it just read and it made a difference and I got it. I finally like it clicked. And just sometimes people have that. I follow Tony Robbins. I frames things. I like how he thinks. There's a few other people out there that I would respect to mention their name, but this is about the program that we have. But I would just say this, that a mentor or a leader, a teacher, a trainer, somebody who can give you encouragement, they're going to give you that clarity that doesn't misalign you and doesn't cost you the time. I feel like I'm going to tarry on this a little bit here tonight. There's been times in my life where I didn't invest in the right people. I spent time investing in people that aligned with where God had me going. Energy, if you will. Not that I don't love people or that I don't encourage others to spend time, donate your time and whatnot. But I'm talking about energy, is plans, pursuits that God has for you. I've had things that have happened in my life. I've yoked myself or I've engaged with other people that have robbed my peace. They created turmoil. They created tragedy because the trajectory of their life was not the same as mine. They were misaligned. And I can tell you this, I'm a very determined person, and I know many people out there are very determined people, but many of us that are driver leaders, we've spent time pushing towards a goal. And at the end of the day, when we got there, at the end of 3 months, 6 months, or even a year, we lost progress because we were misaligned people with our intentions and with God's will in our life. I find that people do have a challenge understanding the true will of God, their purpose, their destiny. What does God have for you in your life? How do you get access to that? How do you gain the information with God to move forward in business, ministry, and personal matters? That's what I'm offering: clarity and alignment with the purpose and plans that God has for you. Right alignment changes everything. I'd like to invite to these kinds of conversations. I was small for personal clarity. Small, and I'm starting small, and I'm working with a limited number of. If you'd like to use a complimentary clarity call, I've actually made that available. When people, any of us, myself included, attractive, we see something that's interesting, we want to test the waters. We want to go, really worth what it's worth. Is this worth me investing time? Like we said earlier, my energy, my peace, will this create? And what I'd like to do is offer you a complimentary, include a link below and wherever this is being posted, I'll make sure that I include a link for you to engage with this, whether it's not, there's no, I just want you to understand that it's available to you. And if, makes sense, then we can move on to other things we can talk about next. But what I find is that the reason I want to offer a clarity call is this. When I was really encouraged by the Lord to put myself out there as someone who can help others bring clarity to their life and share the wisdom that He's placed in me. is this, that I just need time with you. Many times I've gone for a job interview, or people have read something in a resume, or stated some things that I've done, been a part of, ministries that I've done. But I've had so many people say that to me, they go, "Well, you just need to sit with him." And because a sheet of paper and even this video does not give you experience, and I want to give you that opportunity. And I don't cost you anything, so you can actually taste the fruit before you buy. Couple questions. Does this resonate with you? Are you in a... What part spoke to you most? Just respond to the comments there, and if I don't have any, I'll just go ahead and answer some basic questions that I've been asked before regarding this matter. But if you would, if there's any comments or ask me, feel free to. Let's see if anybody's in the chat. Now, I've had people respond. I've been posting for 3 months now, some encouraging proverb-like declarations of truth that are just based off of experiences that I've had. And I'll have that. People respond, this makes sense. I've had people, they're really not transitioning from a season, they're just in a situation, and they just can't see the pathway forward. They don't have that clarity that they need. It's not because they don't understand, they don't feel like they're not doing God's will. It's simply that there's so much momentum sometimes in our lives, or there's activity going on in our lives through the noise. And I have some exercises, some practices that I bring clarity to that bring those cloudy moments to sunny days, right? So the clouds can clear and you can hear it. The other piece is that, many people have in the past said, I'm not quite sure where I'm going. And they need clarity, have a destination in mind. And so I think that in those situations where I've had people say, I don't necessarily know what, in those situations, I like to take them back to the basic fundamentals. What is it that you love? What is it that you have a passion for? What is it that you enjoy doing in your life? If they don't have something, then I go back to what's the last thing that you did that you really enjoyed? When's the last time you were happy? When's the last time that you had great success in your life? And we take a look from there, understanding how passionate them. The thing I do is with anybody that I meet that's new, clarity call, I like to have them do a couple of tests for me. It gives me an understanding of who they are and how God fashioned them. And then I give them the results, and I say, hey, listen, this is who you are. This is how you fashion it. Of a spiritual context and the psychological context. And from there, we need to lean on God. We need to lean on understanding. One of the hardest questions that I have to ask people is, did you hear from God? And it becomes very challenging because people will say, what I'm supposed to do. They'll say, it feels right, or they'll say, well, I was thinking, I was reading the other day. I let them answer however they're going to answer. Did you hear the voice of God speak to you? And I call it a thus. It's like, did you hear from God yourself? Some people will even say, I heard in church such and such. Or they'll say, I watched this video and it was encouraging and I did such and such. But I went with my own children. I have 6 of them. They know Dad's going to ask him, did you hear from God on this matter, this issue, on this spend, or do it? When it it comes to those big moments of clarity, what I try to do is get people back to their relationship and their understanding of their maker, right? If he fashioned and he knows you, one of the things is that it is his desire, it is his great joy to give you your heart. And if he fashioned you, that should be easy. Battle belongs to the Lord. You don't have to toil to enter in promise for you. Listen, I noticed that nobody really asked any questions, but I hope that helps you. And I appreciate you guys jumping on and watching this video. And I look forward to the course with everybody then. So let me ask you this. Does this feel like something you could resonate with? Could you get on a free clarity call just to see if what I'm saying would help you, and see if it's something that we come together and see what God has in store? If that's you, the button and sign up. God bless.